My name is David Lawrence, and the show is Hidden Agenda. So who am I, and what is Hidden Agenda? Well, I'm a Youper, born and bred in the UP and proud of it. Some people think I'm pretty opinionated. Well, I guess I can't argue with that, but whereas much of the mainstream media's news comes from left-wing talking points, mine comes from a degree in political science, history, and a deep belief in logic, truth, justice, and the American way. Some think I'm a Republican, but actually I'm a registered independent. If I come off one way or the other, let me tell you this now. It's because I hate politicians, I hate liars, and I'm sorry if I'm being redundant. It's my job to nail the propaganda spewing left-stream media to the wall along with their political party. In all truth, I come from a family of Democrats. My uncle was the president of the county party. He used to have Hubert Humphrey up to his cabin for hot dogs. My father was asked to run for Congress as a Democrat. Well, with all due respect to my family roots, what's happened to the Democratic Party over the last 40 years and what it's become today is as far away from my roots as communism is from capitalism. This is no longer the party of FDR, Truman, and JFK. It's the party of Sean Penn, Barbra Streisand, and Michael Moore. Want some even more glaring examples of outstanding leadership? Try Kennedy, Pelosi, Schumer, Reid, Clinton. Conservative Democrats such as Zell Miller and Joe Lieberman no longer have a place in a party that is defined by the racist games of the likes of Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton, or the kook lunatic fringe represented by Nancy Pelosi, Barney Franks, and the Holly Weird ilk. Yeah, I guess what I'm saying is that I believe that if JFK were alive today, he'd either be a libertarian or a Republican. Right now, even with Kennedy being dead for over 40 years, the Republicans continue to irritate the Democrats by using Kennedy in their tax cut ads. Yep, there was a Democratic president that actually advocated tax cuts and other than empty campaign promises. This radio program is for you, the listener, who wants to know what the political spin is, what the media or a politician is really saying, and what is their hidden agenda. When it comes to the news, I promise to be your advocate. I will be tactless, opinionated, and honest. You may love me or you may hate me, but you can trust me to look into my microphone and give it to you straight. I'm as tired of this bull as you are. That's my mission statement, so welcome to Hidden Agenda.
Hi, I'm David Brian Lawrence, and this is Hidden Agenda. Welcome to Hidden Agenda 101, a place where we get to chat about politics, the nuts and bolts, so to speak. Well, as you all know, last week I outlined the difference between political ideologies, liberals, conservatives, moderates, and how these ideologies interrelate with categorizations such as independents, Democrats, and Republicans. As you all know, I'm an independent, registered, so I feel like I have a good handle on both Democrats and Republicans. And yes, and if you're saying, yeah, those are parties. Yeah, well, they are parties, and sometimes they stick to the true planks, and other times they have a tendency to go back and forth over and crossing the lines of ideology, which we explained last week. But this week, I'm going to go a little more in depth into political systems and explain what and why. And to start that, I'm going to read a couple letters, or paraphrase, I should say, a couple of letters. First letter's from a Francis S. and Marquette. He says, David, why did you attack Robert Byrd for comparing Republicans to Nazis? They are, and so are you. It also went on to say, I am a dick, and so this is obviously a liberal, probably a Marxist, socialist. That is when you can't put your thoughts in order, you definitely have to drop to ad hominem attacks, calling names. I'll answer this question in just a moment, but I want to get to another letter real quick from Linda in Manistee. Yeah, hometown. She says, your bid on liberals burning Bush and effigy struck a chord. I had a professor in college that was from Poland. He always said that socialists were fascists without swastikas. Why do Democrats keep calling Republicans Nazis when they are Nazis? Okay, so here we have two letters. One is calling Democrats Nazis, and the others calling Republicans Nazis. Let me answer both of these questions with one answer. Linda, you're right. And the reason I base this on, the reasoning I base this on is it goes right back to the heart of the matter. But before I outline these tenets of what political systems encompass around the globe and in history, let's talk about what is the basic misconception that fascism and communism are on opposite ends of the political spectrum. This is simplistic socialist tripe. Now, if you've ever read the Communist Manifesto, and of course for me it was required reading in college, one of the basic tenets of Marxism is to infiltrate the bourgeois system and attempt to convince the majority that the minority view is mainstream. Now, the originators of Marxism and socialism and communism knew that if a capitalist structure were in place with a strong religious or Christian Judeo ethic like our country, that is a very, very difficult nut to crack. The only way to crack it is from the inside. Got to send you back to Woodrow Wilson. Yeah, Woodrow Wilson, he President of the United States. He was an instigator of this type of mentality. Of course, an ex-college president and academic. What is the... well, anyway, Woodrow Wilson's not one of my favorite presidents, but he put in place a system that has been in place in academia for years, propping out a propaganda that if anybody thinks one level deep, like most liberals, like most Democrats, they buy into this stuff. I guess what I'm saying is if you have a liberal arts degree in anything, believe none of what you hear and 100% of what you verify. That doesn't mean that you don't have a college professor that's extremely smart. I had an excellent instructor when I was in school. He was actually a Czechoslovakian defector, and he always challenged us, as I challenge you. Check out everything I say. It's all there. I'll be happy to point you to the source material, which allowed me to come up with the original thought. This is not anything that I've taken word for word from anybody else. This is something that if you read enough and you study enough, you know is the truth. But this guy told me, he said, he defected from socialism. And the Democrats in this country, and this was in 1985, the Democrats in this country is as close to the socialism that he escaped. So anyway, if you believe that you have fascism on one end of the political spectrum, on the other end you have communism, and in the middle you have moderates, you have been fed a line by somebody that was probably fed a line. And the people that fed, the guy that fed, those guys are the Marxists. And what they've been doing is putting out disinformation that ingratiates them into the system. That's why doinks like Robert Byrd and Nancy Pelosi get away with calling Republicans Nazis. Of course, the liberal press backs them up. A truer form, and this is the form in which political scientists of any renown look at this in, puts a scale of the forms of government on a graduated scale from 100% government all the way down to 0% government. Now, even just on its face, you can see that fascism as 100% government is much closer to communism than is conservatism. Conservatism is a concept that wants to get government out of the control. And of course, conservatives, then you have libertarians. And at the other far end, 0%, you have anarchist or anarchy. So going back to Linda, you're right. You're right. And let's break this down a little more. Now, on the far left, you have 100% total government control. This includes types of government like communism, socialism, Nazism, fascism, etc. Monarchies in some cases. Let's go all the way to the far right. Then we're talking about anarchy. Where we fall in America is somewhere in between. Probably what we would be called would be constitutional moderates. And basically what that encompasses is a system in which a government runs things, but individuals have rights, and it is the government's job to protect those rights and the people. This is not included on the left side. And even though a communist government may be voted in, you will find that in every single case so far in world history, that government has eventually overstepped its bounds and been thrown out. But David, what about communist China and communist Cuba? Well, China's already bringing capitalist dictates to prop up faltering industries that can't maintain under a depressive communist system. And Cuba, well, oh boy, there's your utopia. Ethiopia, rather. Don't make that your talking point. What's interesting is you'll have the Marxists say, oh, well, Marxism is a good concept because it's not really ever been tried. Well, if it were tried by robots or academics, it might work. Unfortunately, academics don't have the means of production to create anything but spewing what they have already think is the truth. So eventually the system will go broke, and human beings will be human beings, basically seizing power, and nothing corrupts like absolute power. Anyway, that is the answer to why the Democrats, the socialists, the fascists try to label those that want less government as Nazis. It's because they are trying to poison the system, poison the knowledge base, convince you that their point of view is mainstream. You see this in everything from religion to politics. Next week, and I have to get out of here. Unfortunately, I can't go into the 5 forms of government tonight. I'll do that next week. We'll talk about monarchies, which are or dictatorships, which is ruled by one, oligarchies, which are ruled by a few, democracies, which are ruled by the majority, republics, which are ruled by law, anarchy, which is ruled by no one. By the way, we aren't a democracy in the United States. We have a republic, and thank God we do, because otherwise nonsensical concepts such as conservatives being Nazis would actually have a sway on the construct, that is the fiber, that is the glue that binds this great country together. So anyway, like I said, Linda, you're right. Democrats and socialists are far closer to being Nazis than are conservatives. And that's about it for this segment. We'll be right back. This is Hidden Agenda.